Kristen Hilton has been a counselor at Des Moines Central Academy since 2001, and before that counseled students at Norwalk High School from 1997 until 2001. She has also taught English in middle schools in Remsen and Norwalk, Iowa, and she has a master's degree in counseling from Drake University. And last but not least, Sarah Hayden Paris is the founder and president of Annie's Foundation, a nonprofit committed to ensuring full community access to books that reflect the diversity and complexity of the world. It was formed in response to a group of Johnston parents in 2021 demanding school boards remove books they deemed offensive. Sarah's driving force is the need for children to see themselves reflected in the authors and the books they read and have access to. Let's give a big round of thanks to all of you for being here. I'm going to start with a couple of questions to Randy. The 1960s Tinker versus Des Moines case put Iowa on the map for a First Amendment affirming court ruling that followed. What was different or similar about the circumstances that led to those efforts and the outcome? Randy.
Thank you for the easy question. The Tinker case grew out of controversial times, I guess, you know, the Vietnam War, and students in the Des Moines public schools had strong feelings that they were expressing, much to the consternation of some in the community and school administrators. I think we're in similar times of controversy, and I think that one of the big differences now is that the court in the Tinker era back in the 60s came out with a very clear decision that the rights of students don't end at the schoolhouse door. And now I think one of the issues is, do the rights of parents end at the schoolhouse door? And I think the outcome, if it were to be challenged in court, is very much up in the air, because I think the courts today are different than they were in the 1960s. And so I've been around long enough to know that you don't predict what courts are going to do on a case. Or if you do predict, you know, you're a fool for doing it.
Is one of the reasons for that difference in the courts today the fact that they're being handpicked by political operatives?
No, I think that judges have always been handpicked. I think...
But didn't Iowa used to have a more balanced way of selecting judges than it does today?
The way has been the same for the last 40 or 50 years, but I think one of the differences is that there's probably more of a desire now to find people who are going to achieve a certain outcome than who are going to look at the law, look at the Constitution, and reach a reasonable, balanced decision. And I think that you see that in the comments that some elected leaders, we could call them Governor Reynolds, had when the Iowa Supreme Court here in the past several months issued decisions that she disagreed with, and the entire membership of the Iowa Supreme Court has been picked by herself or her predecessor, Governor Branstad.
Randy, so the new Iowa law that goes into effect in January, Senate File 496, requires K through 12 schools to remove most books that depict sex acts, but excludes religious texts, such as the Bible. Could that distinction hold up in court?
See my previous answer. I think there is a very interesting basis for challenge there, that you're treating one category of book differently than you're treating another category of books. It certainly would be interesting to see the ACLU of Iowa taking on a case like that, because there has to be some rational basis for government to make a distinction like that, and I think it's open to question. You know, it would be telling, I think, if you saw efforts made in a particular school's library to add religious texts from other faith communities, to see whether those books would be allowed with their depiction of sexual acts, or whether those would be lumped in with the books that are being excluded.
It's a very good question. Does the Iowa law apply directly to books that are in school libraries but not being taught in class? So in Linmar, after a parent objected to the school library having these novels, Crooks and Traffic, about teen sex trafficking victims who try to find a new life, the school district formed a reconsideration committee, but ultimately the superintendent responded that there is a distinct difference between classroom instructional texts and literature available in school libraries for individual selection. He wrote that teacher librarians are trained educational experts who depend on the wealth of resources to select library materials that represent all backgrounds, and that it shouldn't be for the district to impose select personal standards on library materials. Could he still maintain that under the new law?
He could certainly maintain that. Whether he or she would keep their state license, I think, is open to question, because I don't think the law is distinguishing between books that are used in classroom instruction and books that are in the school library that are available for use in the library or for checking out. I mean, one of the issues that has arisen in a handful of Iowa communities, particularly small towns, is where the city and the school district have gone together to jointly own and operate one library. There's a little community outside of Storm Lake called Alta, which has a city school library, and they're now looking at the expense of the city having to establish its own library because of this law.
It's very chilling. Thank you, Randy. If you would be so good as to hand the mic over to Sarah, because I believe we're sharing one.